Hello, I want to show you how to prune and propagate those elderberry plants. Super easy. Come join me in the chaos. All right, so I like to give a little context because I know sometimes you watch these videos and you know what time of the year it is. So I'm in the middle of winter. It's January 10th. It's probably about 40 degrees outside. We've been having really bizarre weather, probably just not here in Missouri, Zone 6, probably all over the world. But I know here we've been having some bizarrely warm days. Like it should be like freezing, but it's not. I want to try to get some cuttings of these before they accidentally come out of dormancy because I'm going to propagate them. And so as you can see, this is what my elderberries look like. So last year I just mowed them flush with the ground and mulched up the stems. But this year I'm going to take a whole bunch of cuttings because I have some friends and family that want some cuttings that they can get their own elderberry started. Elderberry is one of those fun things that you don't really need a node for roots. Let me kind of show you what that means. So my dog's already damaged this one. I don't know how long that's been. This is not completely disconnected. So I'm gonna show you a trick. So, okay, it looks like it's still viable. So if you look right here, see how you can see green? When you cut that, look for green. I'll try to find one that's not green because I'll do some cuttings here and give you an idea of what we're looking for. Oh, I see one that's not. All right, so look over here. You can kind of tell by looking at this one that it's dead. And when you look inside of it, it breaks really easy. Whoops. Like, just like a dead twig, and there's no green at all. And I can't get this thing to focus. Sorry, I was just working on my car, so my hands are a little dirty here. But as you can see, there's no color at all. That just means there's no chlorophyll hiding in that cambium layer, which means it's dead. And you can tell that by breaking it. It's very dead, worthless. So don't waste your time. If you have one that's dead like that, you should kind of have like almost this rosy color on the outside, and they'll feel like they have more substance. Not a ton though, because this isn't active, this is dormant. So it's a lot lighter than you'd expect for a live active cutting, but it's dormant. You can tell it's dormant, and you can also see the green. So that means it's alive. So let me kind of give you an example of how you would do your cuttings. So you'll notice that there's nodes, spots where leaves used to be, spots where branches can form. Down here there's no node. But interestingly for elderberry, that's okay. A lot of people prefer to have a node in the ground and a node on the top, but I found that you don't need a node on the ground. You can just take the cutting. So that's my bottom. Don't forget where your bottom is. You can kind of tell by looking at the nodes, because the bud will be above the line. Like there's a leaf scar here, that little triangle is below the bud. So the bud is up and the leaf scar is down. And it's like that for pretty much every plant. My dog Mud is coming to see what's happening. Okay, go play. I know you want to chew on this because I'm holding it, but go play, go play. He's a good boy, very obedient. Oh, and we have puppies, kind of off topic, but if you live in Missouri and want a puppy, I'll give you half off if you mention my channel. Just don't tell my kids I said that. All right. So like I was saying, cutting here. I like to do an angle cut on the bottom. One, I kind of just push these into the ground, so it makes it easier to push into the ground. And two, it just reminds me, it's my tradition, a lot of people's tradition, to just have an angled cut on the bottom and a flat cut across the top. And then if you give them to someone, you can kind of mention that. And these nodes are pretty close together. You won't always see that. And so I like to, if they're too short, I'll do 2 node cuttings, because I like to put these in a plastic bag and put them in cold storage. So let me kind of match this up so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, because I want it to fit in the bottom of this bag. It looks like it might just barely fit if I do a 2 node cutting. So maybe I'll do a 2 node cutting for this one. But I know some of these other larger ones, if you have a more established crown, you're gonna have some much bigger gaps. That just means there's more energy to build those. This is a new crown, which propagated by a sucker, which basically means this one, most likely, this mother, put off a little underground rhizome type sucker, and then that developed into a new elderberry plant. And the elderberry plant's pretty much in the ground. Similar to blackberries and currants and other plants, the actual plant, the plant is in the ground, and these things only live for 3 years. I think they fruit for 2. Like they'll fruit the first year, they'll fruit the second year, and then the third year, sometimes they'll still be alive, sometimes they die. But you typically will get your best harvest your first and second year off each of these. So it's a good idea to just cut them to the ground. I know some people like to leave a couple bumps on them and do different things with them. I don't know if it's just my elderberries, but I found that they're far more productive if I just cut them to the ground. And so that's what I'm doing, just cutting them to the ground. Anyway, the way I'll do the cutting on this one is I'll do it just above the node here. And then I'm gonna take a little bit off down here below this node, just to make sure it fits in the bag. And then that should fit in the bag perfectly. And you just put them straight in the bag. You don't want a moist towel. You don't want to dip them in water. You come out here during winter when there's no sunlight. You have no worry about any warmth damage. And then you're just gonna put these right in the refrigerator. And I would just leave them in the refrigerator, give them time to callus, give them time to get auxin hormone, which is what causes rooting to be active in the stem, very slowly. And I like to check this as I'm going along to make sure it's still green, because sometimes you'll have damage or something that'll cause the top half of the stem to be inactive. But as you can see, we still have a green hue here, so we're still good. Same thing. I'm gonna do an angle cut, and then I'm gonna make sure that fits in my bag. It does. Just cut right here. So there's another one. I like to have it be at least pencil size. So this right here might not have enough energy, enough starch, enough carbohydrate stored to give the energy to be able to root. It might, but it probably won't. So anything thinner than pencil size, I'm just going to throw away. I don't want to invest any hope and resources in anything that's too low in energy, since I have plenty. Gotta go play. My dog's very curious. He doesn't realize I'm gonna play with him in just a minute. All right, be nice to your puppies. They love to play. Adorable little things. Okay, I'm gonna do this again just so you have one more example of this. So angled cut down here, flat cut up here. And probably maybe the last one for this one. Angled cut here. And I should be good there. So that one's gonna not go in here. To label these two, kind of the location I got them, because I have a couple locations I'm getting elderberry from. I have a spot near my house where there's some heavy producing varieties that are just wild. They just kind of just pop up in Missouri. And so I've been kind of scouting out where some wild elderberries are, and because they just come up from seed, and so you never know what you're going to get. So the best producing ones are the ones that I'm taking cuttings from. So they're not like under patent or anything, but a lot of the ones they have growing in Missouri are superior to some of the ones that are the quote unquote improved varieties. Like some of the wild varieties, for some strange reason, are producing really good crops. And so this is the way that you might harvest those. If you have a heavily producing elderberry plant near your house, take some cuttings of it and stick them in the ground. Oh, I might as well tell you how to do that in case you don't know. Pretty straightforward, just like with any plant. Take your cutting, take the sharp end, assuming the sharp end is down, and a lot of times you can just push them straight into the ground. I'm not going to do that in January because this isn't going to start rooting until probably March or April when the temperature's right, and so I'm going to leave those in the fridge dormant until then. I don't want these to accidentally come out of dormancy and start wasting nutrient trying to root, and then have a frost come back and set them back, because what will probably happen is the cutting will fail. So to reduce failures, I like to wait and then just put those in the ground closer to the time when it's warm enough that this can successfully root out and start forming new elderberry plants. And I mean, I have enough elderberry here. It's not a ton, but I'd say I probably have like eight or nine crowns, 8 or 9 mother plants. Each one of them has, 3 or 4 canes coming out, so I could probably propagate a good 100 cuttings out of this. And so I'm gonna stick these around my perimeter, do a little what's called guerrilla gardening. I don't know if you know what that means. Basically, if you have areas that don't really have any fruit, you can just do people a quote unquote favor and just stick those in the ground and they'll have their own elderberry plant. Of course, don't break the law, but I see it as a public service. So anyway, I hope this helped you. Get some elderberry going. Nature's medicine. Thanks for joining me in the chaos. All right, starting to get dark, but just wanted to show, probably got somewhere around 75 to 100 cuttings off of just a few plants. I have a ton more that I could theoretically prune up, but that's probably plenty. So elderberry is really easy to propagate out. It's kind of a wonder why elderberry plants are so expensive. I mean, we'll see my yield when I plant these in the spring, but definitely easy to harvest. And from my experience, just with a few plants, they seem to do really well. So thanks.